All right, good afternoon, Annadale family. Welcome to another episode of Soul Inspiration by Annadale Center. Today we have a wonderful gentleman with us, Mr. Chyko Okpara. Thank you very much for letting us into your home and for doing this.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much. How are you doing today? How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yep.
No complaints.
No complaints?
Just busy, but no complaints.
Busy is good, man.
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
right.
testimony. How's the family? Wife, kids, everybody good?
Everyone is doing well.
Okay.
Thank God. Yeah.
We
How
thank
about
God.
you?
Hey, can't complain, man. I'm just trying to survive,
Well, then the rest of us got a long way to go.
I don't know about all that, man. But we'll see though.
Yes.
Being a foot and ankle guy, I always, look down. I'm looking at people's feet. I've heard about your shoe game. I hear you got a pretty sick shoe game, so we're gonna talk a little bit.
We'll see. We'll see how I stack up.
We'll see. So, first things first. What are some of the oldest pair of shoes you have in your closet? I mean, what would you say is it's like the oldest pair you have in your closet?
Oldest pair of shoes in my closet, I would be this one right here. Yeah.
Okay.
Before the days of virtual officing and work from home.
True that.
Business casual.
Yep.
We kind of wear one of these.
Yes, sir.
Pretty standard.
Yes, sir.
So I got one of these, and I just wanted to get a little bit low, mid ankle,
a little high top,
little high top
Yep.
or midway, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
For the cold, for the cooler temperature.
Okay.
We don't really have winter here in Texas. You know how it is.
Not really.
Yeah.
Yep.
So hopefully I'm not dating myself, but this will be the kind of the oldest one that I've got in my.
How long would you say you've had those?
It's more than a decade for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more than a decade.
Yeah. And this was mostly for work?
This was just for work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very good. All right. How about the newest pair? What the last pair of shoes you got?
Last pair of shoes were these ones right here. These are they're made by a company called Koyo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually don't know that company, man. Are they comfortable?
They're really comfortable.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be genuine leather.
Okay.
It says, made in Italy, so it's supposed to be real legit leather.
Real legit.
Yeah, real legit leather. So pretty
All right.
comfortable. I like to wear shoes that a lot of people don't wear.
True that.
I'm
see.
not really
You don't go with the trend.
I try not to go with the trends. I try to be different.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
So no Yeezys in your closet? None of those?
No. None of that. No Balenciaga.
None of that.
None of that.
Okay, I like it, man. Unique.
Yeah,
All right.
I try to be.
Beautiful. All right, how about shoes with the most sentimental value? What would you say? Shoes that
I'll go with this one right here.
Okay.
This is a Boss.
Okay.
Hugo Boss,
Mhm.
but it's sentimental because it's a collaboration between Hugo Boss and Russell Athletic. So
I
that's
see
the
that.
R
I
you
see the
right there.
R. I never knew they did that. Okay.
Yeah. So Russell Athletic, I don't know if you remember Russell Athletic, but it's like it was a way back.
Way back. I mean, we're dating ourselves now.
Yeah, we
Yes.
are dating ourselves, and we used to pick those up, those sweats or something at Walmart.
Yeah.
It's kind of like your like typical everyday
gear, man.
Everyday
Yes.
gear,
Yeah.
nothing special about
Mhm.
it. But I remember just wearing a lot of those sweatpants from the Kmart's.
Yeah.
Dating
Kmart. Hey, y'all youngies don't know nothing about Kmart.
you don't know anything
Google
about it. That's right. That's right, because you won't see them anywhere.
You won't see that. Nope.
So I just came across this.
Huh.
It was a collaboration between Russell Athletic and Hugo
And
Boss.
Hugo Boss. That's interesting.
So the Russell that just reminds me of a little nostalgia from back in the day.
Yes.
So that's where the sentimental value comes from. But it was just very nice, well-made shoe, white, kind of white on white.
Yes, sir.
Type of thing.
Okay. Were you working, college? I mean, what were you doing at this point? Do you remember how long?
When I got these shoes?
These are your newest pair, though, right?
Yeah, well, these are what you said. No, this is like my sentimental. Sentimental pair.
Absolutely.
The other one I just showed you, my wife bought that for me, so that's my newest pair.
Okay.
But I got this maybe about a year and a half ago. Yeah.
Beautiful. What kind of outfit would you wear this with? I mean, is this more business casual, dressy? I mean, what would you say?
Well, these days, like people are wearing this, with everything.
With everything.
I mean,
even with a suit, man, people are wearing
with a suit, right?
Yes.
That people do the tux and tennies type of events. So it could go with anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very, very versatile. That's why I like it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right, man.
Yeah.
I like that. Again, you're not going to see this on a whole bunch of people. You're definitely
you won't.
not
Again, just kind of keeping it, different to myself, unique, what I like.
Yes.
So yeah, you won't see a lot of people rocking these. Hopefully.
Beautiful. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look that one up, man. Russell Athletic and Hugo Boss. That's
Hugo
a
Boss.
very interesting collaboration.
It's a very interesting collaboration. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it.
That's unique.
I feel like I'm nailing it.
You're absolutely nailing it. Absolutely nailing it. Okay. So I know the newest pair your wife also got for you.
Right.
How about that other the high top boots over there? Tell us a little bit about those.
This right here.
What's the story behind these?
These are Chuck Taylors.
Yep.
I got these when I was working with Nike.
Okay.
I would go up to their headquarters, and they would have a lot of like custom, like the custom styles on whatever shoes they have. So I saw this one and I really liked it. Just that kind of leather, tan leather top.
Yeah, super unique.
Super unique. Again, I haven't seen anyone wearing this.
I've definitely never seen those.
Yeah, so these are my Chuck Taylors, Converse Chuck Taylors.
Yes, sir. Are those comfortable?
Yeah,
they are.
Yeah, very, 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 very comfy because they've got this little spandex kind of thing here that gives you a nice fit.
Absolutely.
Around the foot. So.
Yes, I mean we know about Converse, but these are not your typical Chuck Taylor.
These are not your typical Chuck Taylors, but yeah. So whenever it's time to rock the Chuck T's, I'll put these.
You put those on, okay.
Yeah.
Very good, man. What's a typical day for you as far as your shoes? Are you mostly in dress shoes, casual shoes? Are you working from home? Are you having to go into the office?
I work from home, so that really changes a lot of stuff. I'm just not out there as much, and then I guess with my kids at the age they are, I'm also not on the scene as much either. So most of the time it sucks, man.
That's the life right there, man.
It's wild. It sucks. So, but whenever I get out of the house. My shoe game is some of the ones you've already seen, just casual, like something that you could wear with jeans, but you could also wear it with some slacks or, kind of a not super dressy.
Right.
I'm not very flashy. So
yes.
The loafers with the spikes or with any of those kind of emblems and things like that.
That's
the brooches and things like that.
Too much, yes.
Not my style.
Not your style.
No.
I love it. Now, working from home, was this kind of pre-COVID or after COVID, or did it always be like the case for you?
No. So right around like 2020 was when I started working. My job that I got then was just straight up
remote.
Work from home. Remote. But before then I was all day in the office. I'm an attorney, so I work at a law firm. It's just every day, Monday through Sunday.
Wow.
To be honest.
Like non-stop, you're always on call, right?
You're always working.
Yeah.
I don't promote that, but it's just
true
the way
that.
it is.
True that. I mean, were you like kind of an in-house attorney or big law? I mean,
I worked at a law firm.
Okay.
It was a regional law firm, so it kind of had the big law firm kind of feel. But I've also worked at small outfits too, so I've done a little bit of both.
Okay. Yeah. How has the transition been to working from home? How would you say? Do you miss being out there?
A little bit. I think it's good to sometimes get out of the house and go change up your environment and actually work in an office space. One, you get away from the things at home. You can really get distracted. I mean, as soon as you step out, first of all, if you don't even have a home office, then you're working in a room where you can really kind of get distracted and get to something else. But fortunately, we have an office space. But when kids are around, it could be distracting. Someone else in the house could be distracting. Food could be distracting.
Hey.
There are other things.
Other things, man.
It's home.
A lot of distractions. No doubt.
So the transition was weird. Yeah, I know. We'll keep it PC.
Keep it GQ PC over here, man. Yes. Very good. Now we've actually talked to a lot of people who work strictly from home now, and a lot of them have said that they actually work more from home than they would if they were in the office. And I found that really counterintuitive, especially a lot of the guys in the IT space. They're like, man, working from home, you think is less work, but we're constantly on the phone, constantly in front of the screen. There's really no breaks. How is that for an attorney? Would you say that's similar or no?
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of truth to that. And I think it might be the same just for anyone that's like working at home, because there's less chance to be interrupted by something. At the office, when anyone can come into where I worked, anyone can come into your office and talking to you.
Right.
You can hear conversations or something, like I said, the water cooler kitchen kind of convo. You hear that. Right. You might jump in and kind of get into all that and start talking. Yep. But you work from home, especially if you're isolated in an office. So I think a lot of IT people probably would be just for privacy and security things. They would just sort of be out in the open. Right. You can kind of get locked in a zone, and it's just this technology is good and it's bad, because you have a lot of ways to reach you everywhere. Everywhere. Your laptop, your tablet, your cell phone.
Oh my God! You're really never off there.
You're never really off. Wow. You actually have to make some time to get out. There are definitely days when I'm like, I have to break.
Like literally break now and consciously break away from.
I have to stop. I have to break. Maybe get outside. Run, walk around the neighborhood.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Makes sense, man. Makes sense. All right, well, let's transition into your journey and where you are today. I mean, you said you have a lawyer, attorney background. Did you always want to be an attorney? I mean, how did that process start, and how did you end up, in a law firm?
I always wanted to be an attorney partially.
Okay.
I like law and I like business.
Okay.
I wanted to be a lawyer because growing up in Nigeria, one of my uncle, my uncle on my mom's side was a senior advocate of Nigeria. So really,
it's a big man. It was a big man.
A big man for sure. Big man, and I just admire that. I kind of like the whole. Back then, when I was younger, I liked the whole gown and the wig thing. Today, I wouldn't be caught in that.
Man? Yeah, definitely.
It's so bizarre.
It's so bizarre.
It's so bizarre. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that today. But back when I was growing up, it was really, it was kind of thing that intrigued me.
Yes.
Then my uncle just being very influential. I was like, man, this is what I really want to do.
Absolutely.
But as I got to college, I still felt that way. But I also felt like, man, I like business. So when I was in college at University of Houston, I struggled with, should I go to law school or should I go to business school? I mean, I really was torn.
Wow.
And I ended up picking law school. I honestly don't know why.
Really?
I picked law school over business school because it could have gone either way. Maybe it was just the day. The day that I made the decision, I was feeling law school.
Right.
So, so I did that. And just kind of ended up in law school. But I took some like business statistics. I majored in economics. So that's kind of to show you where I was kind of straddling both.
Yes.
Doing economics kind of to give me that flavor of business. But it was also one of those pre-law type of courses along with like political science. So
okay. Very good.
I did that, yeah.
Very good. Did you meet your wife in college? I mean,
no. Even though we went to the same college, I had already graduated and
got you.
And left.
Got you. All right. Very good. So, you come from Nigeria. You're in Houston. You do undergrad there and law school in Houston?
I did, yes. I did undergrad at University of Houston. Go Cougs. Unfortunately, we lost
you out,
yesterday.
Man. You out.
Yeah.
Better than my team. My team ain't even make it. But we ain't gonna talk about that.
I know. It's been a crazy March Madness, of course. But so Houston for college. Okay. And then I went to Austin for law school. Went to UT Austin for law school. Man. Yeah. I think the Longhorns are out as well.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they are out.
I'm not following this year. Louisville just didn't do well this year, so I'm at the game this year for sure. Men and women. Like,
it's strange.
Very, very strange. Very good, man. Very good. So so you do law school, and then at this point, had you met your wife yet, or were you strictly living the single life? Still living the single life. Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. After law school, did you go straight into a law firm, or did you dabble a little bit in business then? I'm sure that entrepreneurial spirit was still in there.
Still there. Yeah, that's right. When that's so very interesting. When I came out from law school, that was in what year was that? 2004. Okay. And so the economy was in a downturn. So actually, my clerkships that I did, they all I didn't land any of them. They reneged. They were kind of tightening and closing up. So I ended up going to Laredo, of all places, South Texas. Yeah, Laredo,
Texas.
One of my really good friends grew up there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just trying to find a job after I graduated law school. Nothing was really panning out just because of the economy. And again, I was looking for something in business and corporate law. Right. Again, that conflict.
That conflict again.
Corporate law. So that's where I wanted to land. But slow during economic times, so there was not really a lot of opportunity. So I just called my buddy up and I said, he worked for his dad. He owned a law firm there with 2 or 3 lawyers. And then I ended up going down there straight out of law school.
Wow.
Yeah, I ended up being there for about 3 years.
Okay. How was that experience? I'm sure you can't talk about your friend, but how was that experience working in a smaller law firm?
Smaller law firm. Yep. Yeah, it was good because I did a little bit of everything. I did a couple of divorces, so I kind of know how that goes.
Family law, yeah.
Did some family law, did some criminal law, did some foreclosures.
Oh wow.
Did some personal injury and did some corporate stuff. Did a little bit of oil and gas because there's a lot of oil and gas work down there.
Texas,
so it sounded like a jack of all trades.
Right. Yeah. So it made you well-rounded. Sounds like it was a really good experience. Man.
It was a good experience. Probably not necessarily because of the legal experience. Right. I just had a good time.
Yep.
I just had a good time down there.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Wow. Thank God for that, man.
Yeah.
So, talk a little bit about, it sounds like you've had to make some significant decisions, from undergrad to law school to where you started working. Did faith play any role in that? Did you have to pray about this? I mean, a lot of it was, I'm going here. How did your faith come into any of that?
It's just, how we grew up in Nigeria, of course, the culture very, very, very big on faith and prayer and all of that. So, I was doing a lot of that then. The decisions at that time, I wasn't just a kind of a strong or wise, which is not strange.
That's real.
That's just everybody.
That's everybody.
At that time.
Especially in college, then we were wilding out.
Yeah. So I don't know how much praying I was doing
back then.
At the time.
Yes.
But
I'm sure you can look back and see God's hand on your life.
Definitely.
Sure.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes.
Yeah. No, God definitely, helped me, and it was just molding my path as I was going through, especially with my career. It's very interesting. Though.
Yes. Okay. You grew up for the first couple of years in Nigeria. When did you come to Houston? Was fresh from Nigeria to Houston? Was that your first stop?
Yeah, no, I was born. I was actually born in Philadelphia.
Born in Philly. Okay,
yes,
so you're a Philly guy. How you end up in Nigeria then being a Philly guy?
my whole family, my whole family was here, and then my parents met here in the United States, and then after at some point, I think it was in '83, they decided to move us back to Nigeria. So I'd been here. I was about 5 years old at the time. So I was actually born in the United States. Then moved to Nigeria with my family, went to school there, did secondary school in Nigeria. So I'm all the way, man. Yeah, all the way. You drop me, in my state, not your state. I'm good. I can move around.
I'm good. Ain't nobody trying to sell you out there.
Yes, yeah. I will blend in just fine. A
lot of people don't understand that. When I tell the story, I've got a very similar story. I was born in the Midwest, born in Wisconsin.
Okay.
83, we went back to Nigeria. And people were like, why would you move back to Nigeria? And I'm like, back then, 50 kobo was $1.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? People, my dad, for example, the money he got offered as an investment banker in Nigeria was more than what he would make in America.
Okay.
It makes no sense now, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of people did that. Kind of your parents and my parents. They left in the 80s, went back home.
Right.
There was definitely something to go back home to back there, you know. But then there's a big turnaround in our generation. We're coming back. People don't see the migration going the other way.
Right.
It's crazy. We talked to your wife, and we've talked about, some of her journeys and some of the difficulties and the struggles, and how God has literally brought you guys through some really, really tough, situations that a lot of people will give up on. You know what I'm saying? Talk a little bit about, meeting your wife, the first pregnancy, the twins, and hearing that news about the twins, and how did you get through that process?
Yeah, so as far as how I met my wife, because I think maybe you've asked me that a couple of times, or did you meet your wife? And I was like, no, I hadn't. So I met her.
Yes.
I'll touch on that.
When did we settle down? Yes.
Very briefly. But I met my wife. I actually met her for the first time. I was at a club in Houston.
Okay. I love it.
It was called Chrome.
Is it still there? Chrome's still there?
No, Chrome's not. That's not.
So
Chrome's like, it's called something else.
Something else, right?
At this point. Yep. But I met her there, and I remember talking to her and actually getting her number. By the time we were both actually kind of dating people. Dating people. So I never called her. Then I met her. So however many years later, and it was like at least 5 years later.
Wow.
I met her at Umuibo Unite. It's like this big. It's not like a really big thing.
Big thing, right?
At that time it was still kind of up and coming. But I met her. Went for it at this conference in Houston. And I was hanging out there with my brother and my best friend's brother, and I just saw her dancing. I said, "Oh yeah, who's that? Who's that dancing? Whatever." And so that's how we ended up connecting. I was sitting there, so then we started dating. And one day I was talking to her, and I said, "You remind me of somebody that I met some years back." And she was like, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yeah." And I started to describe
the situation,
where I met her, the situation, because I have a photographic memory. I remember exactly what she was wearing.
She didn't remember. Like, you were just some dude that got her number.
That's right. Back then, she didn't know. But when I described what she was wearing, she said, "Oh, that was me." And I was like, "Nah." You're just saying
you
that.
just saying that, right?
It can't be you.
She was like, true, right?
She was like, "Yes, know that it was her." She remembers it, and that she remembers her friend who she was with. So she called her friend, and her friend confirmed that she met somebody there. Yes.
Look at that story.
And that's literally, it was her.
Okay.
She described everything. Her hair was short at the time. I mean, I described it to her. She was like, that was me, to a T. And her friend confirmed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, were you thinking, okay, this is who I'm going to marry? I mean,
I was like, man, I was like, that's got to be God.
It's got to be God, right?
God. It was like, man, we met the first time. It was like, we're all into some other stuff, which happens sometimes. We get distracted as Christians. And
yes.
God in his grace kind of just, sometimes he's like, nah, he'll kick us
right back. Yep.
Other times he kind of let us move around and while out, be patient with us, and then eventually get us to where we need to go. So definitely a interesting story. I was like, yeah, that's the woman.
Oh my goodness.
Probably God working here.
That's God ordering your footsteps, literally.
That's right.
Back to the right path,
Back to the right path. Yes.
I love
that's
it.
right.
I love it.
That's
okay.
right.
So you guys are in Houston at this point or no?
Yeah. So I met her in Houston. I was living in Austin at the time. She was in Houston. So we kind of did the long distance thing for some time.
Okay.
And then she moved to Austin. And so that's, we continued dating, got married in 2014.
Okay.
And then, that's when we had the kids in 2019. Okay. So that, when that pregnancy came around, that was something that was crazy. That was really difficult.
I'm sure.
So, when we got married and which we started trying, there were kind of, typical things that a lot of maybe Black people kind of things are unique to like Black women kind of experience, so we're going through all of that. Fibroids, all of that. Yeah. Right. So we kind of went through that whole experience and then, she had some surgeries, whatever, that was all good. Then she got pregnant.
Right.
And one day, so I think she was still in Austin. So at that time I had actually left Austin and moved to Dallas. Okay. And she called me up and she said, hey, guess what? We're having twins. You're going to be a father of twins. I was like, oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Super excited. And she told me they were identical twins. I was like, oh my God.
Even better, right?
It was even better. I was so super excited.
Wow.
And, everything was going along fine. And then all of a sudden, I don't remember exactly when we found out that they had TTTS. I don't know if she probably described a little bit of that, but that was a lot to deal with.
Man.
It was the first time I would say that I understood what it meant to feel like you would give your life for somebody because I was, it's something that could be terminal.
Right.
I mean, it could pretty much end up killing both babies,
twins, right?
both babies. And I think the chances of both babies surviving without any issues, because they could survive, but then they could also have like cerebral palsy and all kinds of other things.
Yep.
The chance of them like coming out and not having any issues,
really low.
Was like really low.
Really low. Yeah.
So I remember at one point when we realized that they were going to have to actually do surgery on the babies when she was carrying them. I remember thinking to myself, man, I would actually
lay down my life.
I would actually
trade places,
trade places like with my kids. It was just like that. Yeah, I didn't have to think about it
like that. I mean, that kind of puts things in perspective. It's Easter weekend, obviously, and we're talking about the sacrificial, Lamb of Christ. Like,
right.
It's not the same, but at that point, you can slowly identify with, man, I would gladly give my life for this child at this point. But you feel helpless, though.
Right.
So, how did you guys get through that? Was it just prayer, faith? I mean, just, hey, it is what it is. Where were you at this point?
It was a lot of prayer. A lot of prayer and faith, of course.
Right.
At that time, when I met my wife initially, and then I was living in Austin. I was really involved in church. I was actually on the board, what they call the vestry, Anglican church, what they call it Episcopalian.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I was really involved. I was on the board there for like 4 years, just really developing and growing as a Christian. So when that happened, I was like, okay, I'm just going to trust God and pray. And I think around that time, there was a preacher that I listened to a lot on YouTube. It's called Bishop McClendon, and he taught a series. He has a really in-depth series on faith, and I was just kind of listening to that and learning about the little, just the way faith works, how it functions, and the little elements of it, and what you need to do. It's pretty complex.
Right.
It's more than just believing that you will have something. You actually have to take
much
action
more than that.
and all that kind of stuff. So we did a lot of that. We did a lot of praying. And I don't remember ever really being super freaked out about it.
And your wife mentioned that, and I don't know how in the world, Nigerians, Black people, humans in general are warriors. We worry about stuff that we can't control.
Right.
Your wife mentioned that you're just always super calm. You don't freak out about that. Do you think that's just something that came innately, or is that something you learned through experiences, or you think that's some kind of fruit of the spirit? I mean, how do you become like that where you don't worry about stuff that everybody else worries about? Like literally worries about. Yes.
And I wish I just knew the answer off the top of my head. I think some of it's just like growing up, Nigerian parents, it's like they raise us to think that there's nothing that you can't do. You've got to be able to accomplish everything. So I think growing up, my parents raised us with a lot of confidence in yourself. If you needed something, just go out there and get it done. Yeah. I think we're also fortunate not to grow up in a country where we experience discrimination, because I think if depending on when you experience discrimination in your life, it might impact you because you start having self-doubt. I think we're fortunate not to have that. So I came into that experience of fatherhood with already some of like a foundation of confidence, but the faith part was a big part of it. I was just kind of learning about faith, and all this happened even before the thing with my kids. My dad passed away in 2018. He had a couple of strokes, so his health started going down around like 2016. One of the things that I remember that kind of very significant experiences was like one of the times my dad came, because he had retired and moved back to Nigeria, him and my mom, but when they would come and visit, on one of their visits, he was just sitting down reading a book or whatever in my living room, and I always had this thing of like, I knew my dad was getting older, and I just needed to take advantage of the time that I had him around. So sometimes, often, I would just go sit with him. Maybe not talk to him, but just kind of sit in the living room,
just being in the space,
being around him, because who knows, in a few weeks later, he'd be on the plane off. So anyway, I'm sitting there, and he's watching this show, this evangelical TV kind of thing. He liked to watch that. And I just sat there with him, and I started watching it. Wasn't really talking much to him. We're just enjoying each other's presence.
Exactly.
That's when I first saw this Bishop McClendon guy, and I was really struck by the way he was teaching, and that's how I started following him. So to me, that was just one of the gifts that my dad unknowingly gave to me, the introduction to this guy, who I now started following on YouTube, and really learned a lot about faith. I mean, really learned. I haven't even finished his series. He's probably got like 5 series of it just on faith. It's very intricate. He teaches it in a very deep level. So just learning that, and even like my dad, I saw a lot, in a lot of ways, I learned to observe how God moves, like to see his moving. Not that I know how he moves, but to see his influence,
evidence of his movement,
evidence of his movement in my life. So even with my dad, when he passed away, he died right before the COVID thing hit. And I remember just looking back on it, as much as you never want to part ways with someone that, especially like your dad, I just remember thinking, I think we got spared from the pain we would have been in if he was alive during COVID,
right?
Because
stuck here or whatever.
He would have. His health was very fragile at that point. He wouldn't have been able to stay in the same house with us. He would have had to probably be in a nursing home somewhere.
Imagine that.
And I heard about those stories about people who had loved ones in nursing homes. You probably know
couldn't
a lot.
See them. Loved ones in the ICU stuck. You can't see them. They're passing away. In isolation.
I heard that some people were having to say goodbye to their loved ones over the phone.
It happened a lot.
Just drastic. So I don't know how that would have been. I think that would have been something that would have been very damaging. So just one of the ways that God works. So I think just learning, watching how God takes control of situations around us.
Absolutely.
That was how I started to like build my relationship with God and my faith in him, to understand that he's there and he's working. A lot of times if you can observe and be in tune and see what he's doing in your life, it just builds confidence over time. You just get to the point where like, I'm never facing anything alone. I've seen him move. I've seen him use people, use situations, and then put me in an outcome that I would have never thought of. That would be good for me. He just knows what's best for all of us.
Absolutely.
So that's how I kind of developed it. And then when this thing happened with our twins, I think I was probably at a certain level where I just had a confidence. I had a confidence in God. And again, I go back to that faith thing. It's almost like a step-by-step sort of, this is how you approach faith. And I did it. I tried to follow it to the T. And somehow maybe that was responsible for why I just was not that word. I wasn't freaked out. I mean, I had my moments, don't get me wrong.
You're human, yes.
I had my moments, like I said, at the time when I was like, I give my life for my kids. But I just was just able to tap into things. When things happen, that we'll fast and pray. Yes. Real fast. No doubt. Real fast, right? Quick. Yeah. So I did that. I was fasting with my, with the twins. I fasted for one day. And then something just told me, you could lose your boys. Your first kids, maybe the only kids you ever have.
Exactly.
You could lose them. Is one day of fasting going to be enough? And I said, you know what? No, I got to do it another day. So towards the end of the first day, I decided I would fast for another day.
Wow.
And then towards the end of that day, I remember thinking to myself, well, 7, they say 7 is the number of completion. So this is the most important thing to me. Why just keep it at 2 days? Go ahead and make it a 7-day fast. Wow. So I fasted for 7 days. till about 6. I'll break my fast at 6 p.m. I did it for 7 days. And I think just being in that space,
yes,
you know, just kind of focuses your mind on relying on God. It takes some experience too, but just through all that, I was just comforted, not too freaked out.
Amen to that. And that's such a testimony of God, you know, turning this trial into a triumph, turning, you know, a test into a testimony. And it takes spiritual maturity. You didn't just wake up like, I'm glad you broke that down. You know, a lot of people think, you know, well, I must be doing something wrong if I'm born. And nah, I mean, we start out as babes in Christ and we slowly grow, and that spiritual maturity comes through. You know, the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. It's not overnight, right? It's slow maturity, and your dad has been imparting this on you for many, many years, intentionally and unintentionally. Look how you found this bishop. You know what I'm saying? Just being in this space. I mean, it's such a testimony, man. I know you've mentioned your dad a lot. It sounds like he was an important mentor and important influence in your life. You know?
Oh yeah.
What would you say about that? Yeah, about mentorship. Yeah.
I think the biggest impacts he made on me were the ones that I didn't realize were happening at the time. At some point, you recognize, like, wow, you know, this is very important. He did this for me. Look what he was doing at the time, and I had no idea that he was doing it. You know, our culture, how it is, strict, all that kind of thing. You know, respect is a big thing. A lot of flogging. And my dad was, out of all my uncles, all his siblings, he was the premier flugger. Man, he's the one guy that you do not want to get flogged by, because my dad can really
can't find that sweet spot.
He had a in fact, I'll tell a funny story. There was the thing that used to, I can't remember what we called those floors in our homes in Nigeria, but the one that had the little rocks, those stones in it. And then they had those designs, flowers and stuff like that. The thing that they used to make, I think we called it ebonite. I think that's what it was called. A little thing that would flex like this.
He knew how to have this.
My dad found one of those things. He came back from work one day. He saw that thing. He picked it up. He said, okay. And he just took it into his room and he would go and put it.
Had a special spot for it.
On top of the dresser in one of his rooms. He put it behind there, and there were some papers that were next to it. So whenever it was time to get a lashing, when he would pull it out, that thing will slide across the paper, so you would just hear like a short coming out of it. You went, and you man, it was already going down. But at the same time, he was never too big enough to come and have a conversation with us.
It wasn't just about, you know, abuse or anything. It was discipline, but in love. Right?
Discipline in love. Yes. And he showed that love part because he would actually come down. It's not everything that was about spanking. Sometimes he would just come and have a conversation and say, you know, what were you thinking about? Or my dad would also, there are times when my dad apologized to me, which was like, you know,
your dad?
Yeah, he would just say, you know what, I'm sorry that this thing, you know, that this thing happened or whatever. So it was those moments. They were not every day. Let's be clear.
Let's be clear, right?
But just the 1 or 2, 3 or 4, however handful of times when it happened was very impactful. That, okay, so this is more than just, you know, I want to cane you. You need to do everything that I say. It was like, you know, I have a relationship. This is a relationship where actually I felt like there was some aspects where I could approach him and he could be like my mentor or my friend, you know, not just a scary father figure like that. You know, you have to come to say, yes, sir. Can I talk, sir?
Yes. You know, I'm sure you also had some good friendships that were important in your life. Your wife mentioned Kenny, and looks like you and Kenny are pretty close in 4 years. How important do you think it is to live in friendship and in fellowship and in community? A lot of times the devil tries to make it, you know, this whole idea of self-made and individualistic and all that stuff, and that's a lie of the devil. We know the Bible wants us to live in fellowship. How important do you think that is for us, for you to have somebody that you can talk to and you can get good advice from, you know?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. We were designed by God to live in community with each other. You know, there are places in the Bible where the advice or whatever, whether it was Paul or whoever is talking about, is sometimes where he would say things specifically to brothers in Christ or brothers and sisters in Christ. You know, so he would kind of emphasize the importance, you know, the importance of the community. I think a lot of the disciples got together when you know, Jesus Christ, after the crucifixion, which is relevant to where we are right now, they got together and they huddled up while, you know, after he had passed away, and they were kind of, you know, I know they were in hiding, but at least they were doing it together. So that has been very important. I mean, Kenny is like a brother to me. I mean, I've known him for too long to count now, but it's one of those other things again where I said I've seen how God operates, because truly he really is truly like my brother. He is my brother. It's not a like type of thing. He really is my brother, just not a blood brother.
Right.
My mom had 6 kids, so I think that was more than enough.
You got enough, right?
Yeah, I think we're not trying to go more than that, but God in His wisdom said, here, I'll give you another, I'll give you another brother, and He really is not just that way to me. My entire family, He has a very close relationship with my entire family, and our families and His family are super close. It turns out our dads went to the same school, and actually knew each other. That's serious? The crazy thing. Yeah, his dad was a little bit older, but they went to the same secondary school in Nigeria. Yeah, so we've been family like that, and he has supported me through the years for over going past like 2 decades now. Another thing where I see it a lot is, we are members of one community, OCC, and then they are very intentional there, and they have, the first time I've seen it, where they have kind of like these family groups or whatever. I think, funny enough, actually, I think my mom does that. My parents do that in Nigeria. But there's that too. And I've attended, one of those. It's pretty cool to see people getting together
and be vulnerable,
and supporting each other. And I've had some of them reach out to me. Unfortunately, it was just at a time where we had a lot going on with our kids, and I just have not been able to really slot myself in somewhere. But I've seen it work, and it's very, very amazing, because sometimes you may not have your siblings. They're in the United States, but they're everywhere. Everyone's got their own Wahala.
Everybody's doing life, right?
Everybody's doing their own life. So at some point, the person who's going to be there for you may not even be your blood relative. It may just be a brother or sister in Christ.
Absolutely. It's such a blessing, man. Yeah. For people who are watching this today, for the young boy in Newi watching this tomorrow, and thinking, man, I want to be an attorney someday. How do I get there? What kind of advice would you give? That's a broad question, but what are some principles that have helped guide you through your journey and the success stories there?
The only formula for me would just be, you got to trust God.
So faith again.
It's faith. You got to trust God. My career is very unique in the sense that I didn't have a lot of those opportunities. Like when you're in law school, at least here in the United States, the popular thing is, you get these super good grades. You have to be like maybe in the top
whatever, right?
quarter of your class. And then they start doing these on-campus interviews. These big firms come in, and it's just like everybody wants to go work at, a big firm in a high-rise building in downtown or whatever metropolitan city. And those things are so competitive. As you can imagine, there's bias in it as well. There's all of that. So, I hit a lot of bumps along the way. I didn't really land any of those right out of school, but a lot of the places that my career went, a lot of things that I did a lot of things I didn't really want to do. But I look back on it now, where I am today as, general counsel for a health management company. I look back, and a lot of the things that I bring to the table now, I have a lot of project management skills. I have a lot of contract management skills, but that's because I did all of those.
Did all those things.
At times when I felt like my career was in the dumps. So I understand things that are practical, operational, that I need to do for what I do now to where I'm, going to build up maybe a legal department at some point in the future.
Absolutely.
Very relevant. So I would say trust God, because the skills, the things outside of maybe legal analysis or researching the law that I'm utilizing are very important and key to me in my job. I picked up at a time where if you had asked me how my career was going, I'd have told you, man, this was crap.
It's useless, right? But God truly does work together. Everything for your good, as long as you're called according to His purpose. And that's really important. At that point, you finally understand, why am I in this situation now? But you're using those tools. And thank God you soak those up like a sponge, and those are very, very practical today.
That's right.
It's important, man. I'm happy you've talked a lot about faith. Again, it's Easter weekend, and we want people to keep the faith and trust God. And we want to say a big thank you for letting us into your house today. This has been
thank you very much.
Very inspirational. And
thank you.
For people who want to, reach you, do you have any kind of social media handle? I mean, you're an Instagram guy, TikTok guy. I mean, if they want to reach out to you, how can they find you?
That is a great question. I changed my My name. I'm simple. You know, yep. I couldn't keep up with where social media has gone.
Yeah, I can't keep up with it either.
You know, yeah. I've got Instagram and I've got Facebook. And, you know,
you're
I have
dating
Snapchat,
yourself, man.
but I don't use Snapchat.
Kids ain't on Facebook no more.
The kids are not on Facebook anymore.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, I really am. Truthfully. Yes. But yeah, no, TikTok. No, I don't do TikTok.
I don't do TikTok, right?
So my you know, my handle, if anyone's looking, is it's Chyko, CHYKO -CNO. So that's
they can hit you up that way.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, I'll be happy to, if anyone happens to hit me up. Yeah, I'll be happy to, you know, share what I've learned over the years.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you giving us this opportunity, because with everything that we have gone on with our kids, you know, my wife and I have always felt like we need an opportunity to share that and get that out there, because it was an experience that put us through a lot. I mean, I could talk about it for days, man. Days, honestly, and just keep going from one topic to another through it. There's so much that we learned. There's so much that we're probably still going to learn from it. So I really appreciate this opportunity to giving us a platform.
It's been a blessing. And like I told your wife, we're coming back, man. There's a chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4 for you guys. So perfect. You know, God is still working a lot in your lives, and we want to obviously have a platform where you can share your testimony. Yeah,
thank you. Well, whatever inspired you to do this, I'm glad that you're you're doing it. You and your wife are doing it. It's awesome. Of course, your reputation precedes you guys. I heard about you before I met you, so
I don't know about all that.
I'm happy to be in your presence.
Happy to be in your presence.
Welcome to my home. You're welcome anytime.
Amen. God bless. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you.